We'll do a Twitter clone in this video, so it's a collab with Francesco and Zerops. So Francesco will do the backend, I integrate with the frontend, and then I deploy with Zerops. And right away, I let Francesco do the intro.
Can you create a Twitter clone in Rust? In this video, a collaboration with Max Wells, Rust full-stack engineer and maintainer of Rust UI, we will build a Twitter clone from scratch and we'll use Rust for backend, for frontend, and we will push all the code on GitHub so it will be available at the link below. I will take care of the backend part and Max will take care of the front-end part, so let's get started to build some Twitter-like APIs using Axum, the Rust web framework. Let's go!
Okay, let's create our project, cargo new Twitter clone backend, and let's open it with any ID we want, for example VS Code. Here we have a simple empty project. And let's build this step by step. The first one is, of course, to put some dependencies. We have Axum, third for serialization and deserialization, SQLX for the database, time, Tokyo, the synchronous runtime, UUID for the ID of the tweets and the users, .env because we'll use a .env file, and tower HTTP to solve the course issues. Let's create a .env file. Here we'll have the data for the database, Postgres user, password, and database. Don't use those in production, please. And also this database URL. We'll use this running in a Docker container. Let's create a docker-compose.yml file. We'll go fast here, but basically we are running a Postgres instance running in a Docker container. We'll have just a single service, Postgres, that uses the environment variables, the ports, and a specific volume. Now let's run this Docker container. Let's spin up the database. Docker compose app-d to run this in detached mode. It created a network, a volume, and a container. Let's check it out. Docker ps-a, and we can see here at the top, we should see, yes, this Twitter clone backend Postgres 1 on port 5432. Let's create some migrations. Let's create a folder called migrations, because we want to have some data when we will run our application. Some default data, just to see if this is working. And of course, we'll also create users after the application is up and running. But let's create this create users.sql file. We have a create table if not exist, and we'll have some Twitter users, Alice, Bob, Charlie, Diana, and Ivan, with an ID, username, display name, avatar URL, and banner URL. Let's create also some tweets of these specific users. Of course, we need to create a table with an ID, author ID, content, and created at, and some tweets. For now, we'll just have 3 tweets. Let's create some follows here. So create follows.sql, we'll have a table just with a follower ID and following ID and created at. And here we have just some examples. So 2 is following 1 and so on. Now, before we create the application, I want to test these migrations. How can we do that? We can use, for example, the SQLX CLI. This is not a mandatory step, but if you have it installed, you can type SQLX migrate run, and as you can see, it applied migration 1, 2, 3. We can step inside the Docker container that runs the Postgres database with this command, and you can see here we are inside the Docker Postgres container. Let's check it. If we select the users, yes, we see the users actually in the database. This is really promising. I want to check also the tweets. Yes, they are there. Select star from tweets and follows. Everything looks great. To check the schema of this DB, we can type \DT, and as you can see here, we have 3 tables. Very nice. Now it's time to create our application. We need some Rust files. For example, let's start with users.rs. We'll start with some imports, third SQLX time and UUID. We need a struct for the user, with an ID, username, display name, and so on, and another struct to create a new user. We need a function to get all the users. We are using SQLX here. This is a very powerful tool. We can just type SQL queries here. Another one to get a single user, with a user as a parameter. Another one to create a user, and here we are using query as a macro. This is useful because we might try it out if they are correct. SQLX is a very powerful tool. Let's create a file called tweets.rs. Again, we'll have some imports, a struct for the tweet with an UUID, author ID, content, and so on. Another struct to create a tweet with an author ID and content, which is a string. And here we have a function to get all the tweets. Another one to get all the tweets of a specific user. A function to get the feed of a user based on people they follow or they might follow in the future. And another one to create a new tweet. And of course, this tweet has to be from a specific author ID. Another one to delete. This structure is quite simple. We also return a SQLX error in case there is some problem. Let's create one more file, follows.rs. We have some imports here to third SQLX and UUID, a struct to toggle follow. Basically, a person can follow or unfollow another one. And we also have a struct for the follow result, which is simply a boolean. We have this function toggle that just allows us to follow or unfollow a specific user. Let's go in the main.rs file, let's remove the hello world, and of course let's replace this with our actual application. We have some imports, Axum, SQLX, and Tower HTTP. We'll use it later when we'll connect to the front end. We have the 3 modules, which are basically the 3 files, follows, tweets, and users. And then here we have a main function. Of course, we'll use Tokyo to make this asynchronous. We need a server. Inside this function main, we include the environment variables, we initialize the database like this, let pool, and we will do the migrations again. We already made them manually, so in this case they will not run. Otherwise, if we don't have SQLX CLI, this will run the migrations that we have in our folder. Otherwise, we'll get an error. And here I want to define the application, defining the route, so we will write the handles soon, but I want to see the structure here before. And then we define the address and the listener. So our server is ready, but we are not done yet because we need to actually write all those handles that of course will call the functions in the modules. But here we are at the main level. Here we need to handle the HTTP request that we will use the functions in the follows, tweets, and users.rs files. For example, for users, we have a function get users, a function to get a user, and another function to create a user. We are using the functions that are in the users.rs file. For the tweets, we have a function to get the tweets, and of course we return a JSON here, a function to get the tweets of a specific user, again in JSON format, and another function to get the feed, and one more to delete a tweet. One more for the follows, toggle follow function, to be able to follow and unfollow a specific user. You see, it's using the follows toggle function that is in the follows.rs file. Now we need to test this application, and I will leave a request.http file with all the commands that will run soon, so you can also test it out on your machine. But no worries, we will test it now in the video. I will leave this request.http file here in the project. Let's type cargo run, and the server is running on HTTP 0003000. Let's get the users like this. This is not very beautiful, but if we go on a browser and we go on the URL http localhost 3000 users, we can see all the users here, from Alice to Ivan. Let's try to get a single user like this, for example, Alice. Let's do also this on the browser, Alice. And we can see here the single users, so this is actually working. Let's create a new user called Frank, and let's see if it's there. Let's go at the end. Yes, Frank has been created. Let's see the list of the tweets. We can also check this on the browser. You can see the content, the borrow checker, building a Twitter clone. So this is actually working. We can see the list of the tweets, and you can see also the author username and author display name here. We can see the tweets of a specific person. For example, Alice has one tweet. Yes, we can see here all the tweets by Alice. In this case, it's just a single tweet. Let's create a new tweet. For example, by the user 1, which is Alice. It's not that easy to check it out from the command line, so maybe it's better to try it out on the browser. Yes, we can see now that Alice tweeted again. Now Alice has 2 tweets. Let's try the follow functionality here. You can see now it's following through. And of course, this will be easier to check when we'll have a front end, and we can also see here a feed of a specific user, for example, Alice. So the API works. Let's try also the unfollow functionality. Everything seems to work. We can see here, if we have this tweet, let's try to delete a tweet. We have this tweet by Charlie, with this ID that starts with 63. Let's do curl delete, and now that tweet is gone. Amazing.
Hey everyone, I'm Max. Now we are going to build the full stack Twitter clone using Rust on Leptos. So Francesco already has done the backend. I will do the front end. So using some components from Rustify, and we will integrate everything in a full stack application using Leptos. And by the end, we'll be able to post by your own. And the best part of this is that we will be using ZeroPs to deploy this online. So let's start. We'll start from this template, start story full stack. You can see it on RustUI start story full stack. And the idea is to take this template, to take what I've done Francesco for the backend, to integrate the backend with this template, and then to build the front-end parts to replicate a Twitter clone. And once it works on your local machine, the idea is to deploy this on the cloud using ZeroPs. So this is what we are going to follow. So maybe first, probably you have never used Leptos. So if it's the case, you just need to go on prerequisites in the README of this GitHub repository, and you will find all that is necessary to install. Because we are using Leptos, we are using Nightly, okay? We are using Tori, Just also, and PostgreSQL. Normally, you already have this. So once you are good for this probably it will take also a little time to install Cargo Leptos. It's quite long. And once you have all this, you just need to git clone here, and we can do that right now. So git clone. Okay, perfect. So we are good. I will just change the name of the project, so it can be Twitter clone full stack, something like this. Up, and I will open this with VS Code. Okay, so we are good. I will first explain you the project, how it works, just a simple overview, and then we integrate the backend. Okay, so first thing you need to check is the README, of course, and in the README you will see that we have pnpm install. Why we have pnpm install? It's because we have a package JSON, okay, for Tailwind. So first thing you need to do, npm install like this. So now Tailwind is installed, perfect. And then you see that we have a just reset DB. So why we have a reset DB? Just for simplicity reasons. And the idea is just to reset the DB, to set up the DB very easily. So if you look at the just file, if we look reset DB, so it's very simple, it's just this. So it will take what you have inside your .env with the Postgres user, Postgres database, and so on. So exactly what you have just here, okay? And it will terminate all the connections that you have with this database. It will drop the database, it will recreate the database, and then it will run with SQLX migrate run, okay? So this way we are sure that we are good. So we will do this, but just first, you can see that in the .env, the Postgres database name is start to full stack, and probably you can have a better name, so it can be Twitter clone full stack, for instance, something like this. So we just replace. Okay, so we are good for this. And also, by the way, we will also use Git for this. At the moment, you can see that we have already Git initialized. This is because we have done a Git clone, but I will just rmrf all from this and start again from scratch. So, okay, now we can do git init, git add, git commit, so it can be init commit, something like this. And we are good for this. Okay, so next step, I will just run cargo leptos watch just so that it compiles. I'll show you the template where it works rapidly, and then we integrate with the backend from what Francesco has done. Okay, so it has compiled, and now if you look at localhost 300, so we have this, and you can see that we have different templates in here. And if we refresh, the state is kept because this is coming from the database. If you look more in details inside what we have in the database, so you remind that we have the migration files, right? And here what we were doing is that we were creating a templates table with this value, with this seed data, sorry. Value 1, description 1, and so on. This is what we have here. And this is also what we have inside the database. If you look at the database that we have created, if you look inside templates, you can see that we have exactly this. And it's connected. So if I remove this, I refresh. And now if I refresh this is connected directly to the database. So the idea is, because here we are having this with the front end, but now the idea is more like to integrate what Francesco has done with Leptos. For this, just to explain you rapidly, so in Leptos full stack applications, usually you have two members, you have app and you have server. This is what we have just here. And you have the application, the app here and the server here. When you think about server, it's more like to think about server-side rendering. What is inside the server here? It's not the database. The database part will be inside app, not inside server. And when you think server, once again, it's more like server-side rendering. Okay. So the database will live inside here. And if you look inside app, you can see that we have different domain. So settings, for instance, templates. So you remind this is the templates, and here, all that we have here lives inside the template just here. So and you can see also that we have the DB here, the database layer here, and the services layer here. In the DB layer, this is a pattern that we will be using. You can see that here we are connecting directly to the database. So the only purpose of the DB file that you have here is to connect directly to the database. The purpose of the services here is to make the glue between the front end of Leptos and the database part. This is why, for instance, to get templates, we are using the template here, get all. And this get all, you already guess, it is coming from the DB layer here. And the services, if you look at get templates, for instance, where is it used? It's used inside here. So inside the components that we have inside the template domain. And here is just the list, okay, that we are using in here. I will explain more in details how it works with Leptos, with the resource and everything. But for the moment, just keep in mind the different files that we have, because we will be using this pattern. The first thing that we will do is to integrate the work of Francesco using the DB and the services files. So this is what we are going to do. So for this, if we go inside so github.dev, the repo Francesco, you can see that we have different migrations files and also different files here for the different domain. So we will be using this. So first, I will just copy and paste the different migrations. So it's create user, okay. So create users .sql. So I pass this. Okay, I'll take this also. So here it's 2. It was create tweets. Okay. .sql. And we have create follows up. Okay. So 03 creates follows. Okay, so we are good for this. I will just also copy directly the request.http. This way is done also. Up. So requests.http. Okay, and the idea for now will be to make this work using Leptos. So we'll see that we will be changing a little bit also here, but for the moment I will just apply the migrations. So I will just add this, so add migrations, files and requests .http. Okay, so if we do just reset db, and if we look again inside the database, so we just need to refresh, and then you can see that we have the different tweets, just shipped my first Rust and so on, and this is coming from, you remind, if we look at the tweets, this is coming from the seed that we have. Okay, so now the idea is to take what Francesco has done for the source with the different files. So we have follow. So we just create new domain for this. So we have the follow domain. Okay, and inside you remind that first we are doing the DB files. So I just copy and paste for now, and then we will also of course change a little bit to make it work with Leptos, and I will explain also what are the different patterns. So tweets, up, my bad, so rs, and we have tweets db.rs, okay, and we have also the users, so domain, user, mod.rs, and we have user db.rs with this. Okay, perfect. I will just add the different domains that we have. So pub mod user, okay. Pub mod, no, follow, and pub mod tweets. Okay, so we are good for this, and now the idea is to change this a little bit to make it work also, and by the way, we also, of course, need this. Tweets db, okay, so user pub mod user db and follow pub mod follow db. Okay, so we are good for this, and now the idea will be to make it work also with Leptos. So I'll just reload. Okay. So I will just add domains, follow, tweets, users, something like this. Okay. So I will just do small changes and catch you back. Okay, so I've done some changes to make it work using cargo Leptos watch and not just cargo run. So I'll explain you the changes I've made and how it works so you can understand better. Okay, so first thing I've done, just for you to see right away, is that I've added this disable server fn hash from Leptos, because this way we can make sure that Leptos does not add hashing and we have deterministic function names. Why I've done this is because I want to make sure that the endpoints that we test in the request.http work fine. And you can see that I've changed a few stuff in here, and especially this. So you remind that previously, this, for instance, to get all users, it was localhost 300/users. So this is a normal way of doing it in REST APIs. What is different when you are using Leptos for full stack application is that you don't think about endpoints as you would do for REST APIs. You think more about functions. Why is this? It's because we are using server functions for this. Okay, I will show you with the services after, but you need to remind that here we are using server functions, so we need to think about server functions, function names, and not normal endpoints that you would think about. Okay, so for instance, for get user. So if we look at get users, you will see that I've added also a new file, user services, and we have inside here the get users function, for instance. And you can see that here we are using a server macro, and this is coming from Leptos, and so here it's a server function that we are using. We have the get user here, and you see that so we are using also the use app state, and so we are getting the app states, okay, and we are passing this to the get all function that we have inside users. So I've also changed this a little bit to make it work with Leptos, because you remind that I was just talking about server functions. And when you build with Leptos, you will build for both the server and also for the client with WASM. So if you think about the server, of course, you want to execute on the server just the code that is connecting to the database. If you look at this is exactly what we are doing here. You can see that we have config feature SSR. So SSR stands for server-side rendering. And when you have this, it means that the code just below, so the module DB, it will be executed only on the server and not on the client. Okay, so this is important. And here you can see that we have different, we are implementing different functions for the, for the user. And so we have get all, get by username. We want also to create a user, why not? And I've created two structs actually. So the user that Francesco created and also the user profile. Why I've done this is because just so that it's a little easier, because I've added also is following and is current user to have a simpler display for the front end. Another pattern to understand is that here we have also SSR here, and we are using SSR to derive from row. Okay, so this is a pattern that you will also see in full stack Leptos application, is that to be able to use the struct for both the server and also for the front-end part, we want to derive from row for SSR to be able to use in both. Okay. So yeah, this is the main pattern that you need to see. So I've done a little changes for this, and I've done also the same changes more or less for the other domains, so tweet and also follow. So for the tweet, it's the same. I've also created services files, okay, with the different functions that we will be using for the glue between the front end and the server. So get tweets by username and so on. And you see that the pattern is always the same. We are using, okay, my bad, the camera has died. So yeah, it's always the same pattern. You see that we always have the struct that we are using on the server side, the implementation, and that's it for all the services. And now if we look at the request.http, so I'm running the server, and now if I run this, oops, my bad. So we can see that we have indeed the results, and this is coming from Leptos. From the Leptos app, as you can see, I'm running cargo Leptos watch. And this is cool. Because now we see that it works fine for the different endpoints. So if we check, for instance, this one, so get user by username with Alice, and we have the data for Alice. Same for get tweets, and we have the different tweets. Okay. So now the idea is that since the backend works, the idea is to make the front end. So without touching the backend first, just hard-coded front end using Leptos. And then when we are good with the front end, then we will integrate with the backend. So this way, it's really a full stack. Okay, so I've made the changes for the front end. So I will first show you what it looks like. So there is still some hard-coded data. We will connect to the database after, but it looks something like this. So something similar as Twitter with the left side nav, the right side nav, and also the feed. So the idea, so first I will show you what I've changed, and then we will connect to the database to be able to fetch the data from the database and also to post. Okay, so what I've changed is the app.rs. So what I've done basically is that I've added this. So with the left sidebar that you see here, and also the right sidebar that you see here, okay? And then in the middle, let's say I've added the routing with this, because you have following and also for you. And the way it works is quite simple. So it's a little like React actually, where we can define, you can see two routes, and then you can define the individual routes. You can also use parent route. So here, for instance, so we have the base URL for the home routes, and so for this we have the home layout. And the home layout, you can see that we have the header, okay, and we have the outlets. So outlet, it's I think it's the same in React. So basically what it does is that you can apply the header for no matter which route that you are that you have, and the outlet will render the user. This is why we have the header here. Okay, and then so we have this. So the route. So you remind that it's a route, and the just up. Not sorry, not this one. this one, okay? So it's basically the base of the application. So here in the static segments we have nothing, so it means that it's the root of the application. And here for the path, so here we are using the following segment, so following. And this is why when we click on following, we are on this segment, okay? And this is coming from this, and this is coming from here, okay? So quite similar as React, so this is not complex. So so now we have the left sidebar, the right sidebar. I've also added a simple avatar, so it's more or less like Chatien, okay? So quite simple. And I've added also in the different domains, so some components for the tweets and also for user the routing. Okay, so for the tweets, what you can see here is that we have card, right? And we have also a form and a list. So basically here, for these two, we have the list, and inside the list we have the individual card, and we have also the form. So basically this is what we have here. Here we have the list, okay, and we are using the tweet card inside this list, okay, and we are also having this form. So basically what we have here. So for the moment it's not connected to the DB. We will do that just after. I'm just showing you what we have done so far. Yeah, so I will connect to the database and then I will explain you a little more in details how it works with Leptos, with resources and everything. Here is just hard-coded data with just simple front end, so it's not that interesting. It's very similar as React. Actually, you can pass props to components and everything, so it's very similar. I think the most important stuff will be with the database. So I will just commit this. I will also do some changes with the database, and then I will explain a little more in details how it works. Okay, so I've done the changes, and now it's connected to the database. So I will just show you first what it looks like. I will just remove this. Okay, so let's say for instance I want to refresh, and by the way I will remove this also. This is a little annoying. So if you want to remove this also, you just need to remove the style and the script, and that's it. So it will just recompile. So I just wait that it recompiles. Okay, and now if you refresh, that's good. And the idea is that I can post first post or whatever. Up, I post, and if I refresh, you will see that it's indeed connected in the database. So that's cool. And also if I remove, same, it's working as expected. And let's say for instance that here you can see that so who to follow. I'm already following Bob, so I see his post. But if I follow Charlie, so let's say I follow Charlie, and if I go on following, then we will also display the post of Charlie. So of course very simple, but you get the idea. And now I will show you with the code how it looks like, so you can understand a little better. The goal is not to explain everything in details, because otherwise it will be 4 hours. It's just for you to see the different patterns. So first, when we want to fetch the data with Leptos, we use what we call resource. Okay, so we use a resource, and a resource in Leptos always have fetcher and a source and a fetcher. And so here, the fetcher, you will see that it's always the same pattern. It's the services that we have created. Okay, so you remember that we were having a DB file that is only communicating to the database. We have also a services file, okay? And the services file is what is the glue between the database and the front end. And this glue is called directly, of course, inside the component, inside the resource. Okay, so this is how it works. So just to explain you very explicitly the workflow, let's say, for instance, I want to get user by profile, user profile by username. So if we go in here, you remember that here we are in services. So if we go in here, there we have the services, and here we are calling the function from the user profile that is inside the DB. You remind user DB. And if we go inside here, we'll see that indeed we have the user profile, okay, inside the module DB, and this is gated with SSR. So this part is running only on the server. And the part that we have seen here, this is running on the clients using OASM. Okay, so this is the main important part to understand. So this is for the page profile, for instance. So if we look just at this, if I click on Charlie, for instance, here we have the page profile. Okay. So yeah, this is the most important. And if we look also inside the form, so you can understand a little better also. So how does it work to be able to post things and to save it inside the database? So it works like this. So we'll remove this. Okay. So we have the form. So you remember that we are using domain-driven development for this. And here you remember that we have the tweets. And inside the tweet, we have a tweet form. So the part that you have just here. And inside here, so we are using a multi-action form. So this is coming from Leptos Prelude, okay? And with this, we can have an action, okay? We can pass an action, and the action is post tweets. And we get this. So if we look inside here, tweet form, so we are passing the action just here, okay? And this is what we have here. So we are creating an action here, server multi-action, okay? We are creating it from the parent. So actually the tweet list, it's not just that, the tweet list is actually have all that is inside here. Why we are doing this is because we want to update the list whenever we post. And so for this, inside the whole list, we have the action to post. And when this happens, then we also want to update the list. Okay, this is why we are doing this way, and it's also the same for digits. We also want to update the list. So the way it works, you remember that I was telling you about resource. So the way it works is that you can use these two actions that we have here for the source inside the resource. Okay. And then it means that it will react accordingly. For this also, you will also see that we are using move, so we are using a closure, and you will see that we have different move also inside the view macro. So basically, whenever you see move in Leptos, it means that we are reactive. Just think this way. So we have this, and then so for the feature, we check if following or not, and then we change the call function from the services accordingly. And yes, that's it. And whenever we post, then up. So if we look at this, so the posts up, my bad, the post tweets. So if we go inside the tweet form, we pass the post tweets. Okay, so you remind this is an action. Okay. And then whenever we post, also we have a small effect like this. So the idea is that you see that when I post, it will remove automatically this whenever I post. This is what is doing this effect. Okay, so effect in Leptos, it's more or less the same as in React. And then so we are passing the post tweet action inside the multi-form action. Okay, it's just a convenient way to work with action with Leptos. You can just think like this. And then we have just simple HTML and a component that looks like shadcn. So we have an avatar, we have a text area, and we have just basic just basic HTML. Okay. And here we have the button to post. Okay. And this button, you can see that it has a type of submit. You can also see that we have an attribute like this. Why we have this and not directly the type is because for the button, it looks something like this. It's kind of the same of CVA, if you know it for ChatCN. So it's the same here. You just define the different elements that you want for your button with the different variants and the different size. And that's it. And since we are doing this way, it means that we are not doing like an avatar with a different prop that we receive. And this means that we need to use an attribute. So this is why we have this. And yeah, that's it. So quite simple. I've also added some components like text area and so on. And yeah. So hopefully it's a little clearer for you. So the idea is not to cover in details, it's more for you to understand the global pattern, the most important pattern to understand. Of course, you have also the code on GitHub. So whenever you want to understand more, just refer to the code. And yeah, it's working on the machine. So now the idea is to deploy this on the web using ZeroPs. Okay, so I've done some changes to deploy using ZeroPs. So we'll show you first the changes I've made, and then we will publish that on the web using ZeroPs. So first thing, you see that I've added two files, ZeroPs project description and ZeroPs, two YAML files. If you look first at the first one, so it's always the same pattern. So you have your project, you have the name. So for the name, I'll just choose this one, description and so on. And you have also the services. So here you remind that we are using full stack application. So we need to have a database and we need also to have the app. So this is why you have two services. One is the database and the other one is the app. And then you can also of course, for the app, we need nightly. So this is important. And then you can also define some auto-scaling for this. So very simple, it works well. And then, so we have also another one, zerops.yaml, and this is where you define all the steps for the build and everything. So here you remind we need nightly. And then what we are doing here, I'm using cargo binstall to be able to install cargo leptos more rapidly because it will use the binary directly. I've added also the WASM target because leptos use this. I've added also it in here just to make sure, but normally this is enough. A pattern important also is that we need to have SQLX offline. So for this, you will see that we have different files that I've added. And if you want to do this also by your own, very simple, you just need to do cargo SQLX prepare -- workspace like this. Because we are working in a workspace, you remind that we have two workspaces. One is the app and the other one is server. And yeah, so, and then we should be good to go. So we have the on variables, so for SQLX, and then we just run this command cargo leptos build because we have added cargo leptos in here. And then for the deploy file, so we need two elements from the target, so the release with the server and also the site. And then we run on port 3000, sorry. And for the database URL, you just need to have something like this. And it will be done automatically by ZeroPs. And that's it. So very, very simple. For the style, I've added, I've done some changes. I've added that directly, tailwind animate.css like this. And instead of importing, I just reference directly. I've tried to make it work otherwise, but I didn't manage. So I'm doing this way. And yeah, so we are good for this. And now the idea is to go on ZeroPs. So very simple, you just need to create an account on Zerops to log in. And then you just need to create a new project, okay? And you will have a page like this. And then for the project, we can name it Twitter clone full stack, something like this. Up, so we can start lightweight. Okay, and then we will need two services. We will need first Rust and also PostgreSQL. So I will start with Rust. Okay, we need the nightly, so we can keep like this, Rust. Okay. So for this, you don't necessarily need to connect on GitHub. We can use the CLI directly, so we will use this also. I will show you how. First, I want to set up the different services. So we have Rust nightly, and we can also add a new one for PostgreSQL. So here I'm using the 16 version, and we can just add. Probably it would be better to change the name, probably DB instead of PostgreSQL. Probably it should be better, but it will work with the same. And so we have these two services, so Rust Nightly and PostgreSQL. And now the idea is to have the CLI. So I've done these changes also. So to deploy on Zerops, you first need to have the CLI. Okay, so you can either use npm or this. Okay, so me, of course, I've already done that. So it's already done. And then you just need to probably also log in using ZCLI. So I've already done that. But you probably it should be ZCLI or login or something like this. And when you are login, you just need to do ZCLI push like this. And it will automatically fetch the different projects that you have inside Zerops. And the one we just created, you remind it was Twitter clone full stack. So I click on this. And then what we want is to use the Rust. So probably I should have changed the name for app and DB. It would have been better, but you get the point. So you just need to click yes. And then for the setup, it will be app. And it will run, it will upload everything. It will build also with Cargo Leptos build. So I just need to wait a little and I catch you back. Okay, perfect. So it has compiled all the projects, it has deployed. So normally you should have something like this, okay? And now if we look at what we have in our projects, so we just refresh just in case. Okay, so if we go inside here, so you go inside Rust or app or the thing that has a 3000, you click on subdomain, you enabled subdomain access. Okay, so it will take just a little time. And then if we go here, you have the project running. And it works fine. If we check this, so that's good. And test production, you can test this. And if I refresh, it's working fine. You can test if you want on this. Probably if you watch this video, maybe this will not work anymore because it was mainly for testing for the demo. But you can test by yourself and yeah, that's it. So you can see it's pretty simple to use Zerops. Thanks for the collab. And yeah, so I just commit this. Hopefully it was useful.